once again welcome you all to session 2, Young India Empowerment. In this session, our eminent speakers with enthusiastic students will join us to explore answers to questions such as: does the Indian family system encourage empowerment amongst youngsters? Does youth today understand the meaning of delegation, being delegated and delegating? How can we channel the rural youth population to contribute more to India, and much more?
So actually we would discuss this for around 40 minutes, and then we would divide ourselves into 3 subgroups, with the panelists being divided as 2 per subgroup. Then the subgroups would discuss what are the action learning points that they would like to formulate after that discussion. And then we would have 2 or maybe 3 speakers from each subgroup to present their ideas. So for the discussion, we have our eminent guests, Mr. Ravi Gulati, a social activist and founder of the NGO Manzil. Ravi Gulati began his corporate career in Canada only to give up 8 months later for a noble cause. He graduated with an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Manzil has an open learning center for children at the Khan Market, New Delhi, where 12 student teachers coach 90 other students in mathematics, English and computers every day. The students and teachers are underprivileged children, mentally challenged children, and students or dropouts from government schools in the locality. Ms. Shivani Khurana, currently the project manager for a natural language processing computational linguistic project titled Anusarika. Shivani works with Chinmay International Foundation, the academic and research wing of the Chinmay Mission. Besides this, she is involved in other Chinmay Mission projects relating to Sanskrit and research. She is an MBA graduate in HR and marketing from the Fordham School of Management and has served in HR division of many IT firms. Mr. Dilip Shenoy, Managing Director and CEO of the National Scale Development Corporation, NSDC. The NSDC is a public-private partnership whose objective is to scale 150 million people in India by 2022 by fostering private sector investment and initiatives in training and skill development. Mr. Shenoy is also on the governing council of a management school. Prior to his last assignment in CII, Mr. Dilip was part of the Indian team working on the competitiveness of Indian industry with Professor Michael Porter at Harvard Business School. Mr. Amit Shahi, CEO and co-founder of the IdeaWorks. He is an alumnus of the Delhi School of Economics. He has worked in advertising and communication for over 18 years. He headed the Delhi branch of Ambience Publicis Advertising before co-founding the IdeaWorks. His important assignments include developing the Incredible India at 60 campaign in Singapore and New York for the Confederation of Indian Industry (CII), developing the UK Creating Tomorrow campaign for the British High Commission in India as part of its public diplomacy initiative, and many others.
We also have with us Ms. Vanshika. She is currently pursuing her bachelor's in history from St. Stephen's College, New Delhi, and is a Khemka scholar. She was one of the 2 students representing India at the first International Convention for Youth Leaders held by Raffles Girls' School in 2006. Since then, Vanshika has taken up leadership roles in school and outside, including Model United Nations. She aspires to join the administrative line or politics and be a catalyst of change and growth. We also have with us our moderator, Ishita Chaudhary, the founder and CEO of YP Foundation. This foundation supports and enables young people to create programs and influence policies in the areas of gender, sexuality, health, etc. The Ashoka Foundation elected Ishita as an Ashoka Fellow in 2011. She has interacted with the White House Council on Women and Girls and the Obama administration, Global Health Council, USAID and US State Department on ensuring the reproductive health and human rights of young people. Ishita is currently serving on board of directors of ASRA, Association for Scientific Research on the Addictions, and SION, connecting youth organizations nationwide in India. So Ishita will be our moderator for this session. We take this opportunity to thank her. We're really looking forward to having an engaging session. Thank you. Ishita, over to you.
I'm very excited about the range of people that we have on the panel today, some of whom I've had the privilege of working personally and some of whom, like Ramiji, have mentored me many years ago. I think what particularly interests me is that empowerment by itself is something that's multifaceted. It's not just achieved or seen at in only one way. And I think the kinds of experiences that the speakers bring to the table today really talk about the fact that there is no single way to look at youth empowerment. At the same time, there's a huge opportunity one has to build on the different kinds of skill sets and talents that different people bring to the table. So I am actually going to just start with asking each speaker one question, and if each speaker could take about 3 to 5 minutes and share their experiences with us. We'll take that into an open house. Maybe people from the audience have things they'd like to share, or there are more questions to follow, and after that, as was shared, we're going to go into having 3 groups and 2 speakers per group. So my first question actually is going to begin with the youngest person on my panel, Vanshika. Vanshika, you've had a lot of experience both within the education system and at policy level to really see youth empowerment in different models. I think what we'd really like to hear is what, as per your experiences, has been the most effective way in which young people's leadership skills can be built?
So talking about leadership, I think there are 2 aspects to it. You have a theoretical level where you probably go discuss and experience things, and then there's a practical level where you're putting to use whatever you've learned. So I think some of the experiences I've had, be it Model United Nations or going for leadership conferences, has definitely taught me a lot, has made me aware of the leadership skills I have, what I can do, what it is to be a leader. But I think the most fruitful has been my experience when I've worked at the ground level. So be it when I've worked with slum children and I've taught them theatre and English in school. I think that was a wonderful opportunity where I was able to connect with them. Or be it even when I went for my first Model United Nations, and I was very excited, and when I came back and we planned to put forward a model in our own school and start our own society. So the idea is when you go for these things and when you are given the opportunities to have such wonderful experiences, you should want to go and give back. So to give back to your school or give back to your college and try to multiply that and ensure other people have opportunities to experience such things.
Thank you, and I think later on it will be very interesting to actually have you share some of, how do you actually do that? If you have an idea, there's something you're looking at which you think creates empowerment, what does it actually take to translate that idea into action? And you've actually done that in different ways. I'm actually going to come to Mr. Dilip Chinoy. So my primary question to you is, you have a lot of experience with looking at what it really takes to have a skilled population of young people in India, and looking at encouraging and ensuring the need to have both employability and empowerment for young people. What kind of role do you think areas like coaching or ensuring inclusivity within corporate spaces, or even having succession planning, say for example within corporate India, how much do you think that actually helps towards ensuring employability and empowerment?
I think most corporates need to plan for situations where the leader is not there. What happens if the leader is hit by a bus today? And what is the succession plan? And therefore, you need to always coach and mentor the second and third lines to take all the responsibilities. So that's a very simple. Unless you do that, you're not going to empower the organization to grow and empower leaders to emerge. But the first part of your question is, how do you look at empowering the young people to choose a vocation or a livelihood that they actually would aspire to? And that's the real challenge. There are many examples, some of them are sitting in this panel, who are doing things at a level and impacting local communities or very small initiatives in different parts of India. I think the biggest challenge for India is that the number of people, if you go forward to 2022, just to give you an idea, there would be about 700 million people who would be in the employable age in India. Out of them, even if with all the reforms that we do in the education system, there will be only 200 graduates. That means 500 million people would have to be given some kind of empowerment through either training or skilling to be able to be a productive part of the country. And therefore the challenge is to take what is happening around the country and scale it up and make it sustainable. Frankly, while there's a lot of aid and charity happening in this space, but that's not going to sustain it. You have to get business models in, and you've got new ways of sustainability to come in, to actually empower people to be able to join a program outside of the education system that enables the person to learn at every level. And that's a big challenge going forward.
I'm going to actually come to Mr. Amit Shahi. So, nobody, I would say very few people would understand the power of an idea to inspire the way you do, and especially keeping in mind the kinds of campaigns that you developed, specifically Incredible India at 60. My question to you is also in two parts in a certain sense. The first is, what do you think we've done well in terms of ensuring youth empowerment? And what do you think that creative industries, specifically today, can still do to push that even further?
So what I would say is that what we have in India, although we keep talking about the constraints of our education system and the shackles that it puts on people, but the system still leaves you a lot of leeway to try and experiment and do things on your own. And I'm a living example. I'm in a profession where I landed by default. And as I tell most people, the only skills that I have are that I can read and write, because I don't have a professional qualification. I'm a generalist of the worst kind. And one couldn't really find a job after doing a post-graduation, so one went into marketing. And facing challenges there, one realized that the lack of a professional qualification was a roadblock. So what do? You become an entrepreneur. And when you became an entrepreneur, then you realize the worth of what one was trying to do. So I'm happy being an entrepreneur, and it is the freedom of the system that we have that enabled me to become an entrepreneur, struggle through various things, and still continue and keep struggling. So that is a system, the freedom that we have to think, to ideate, to struggle, and to try and make a go of it, even in the most adverse circumstances, is something that I believe we've done right in the Indian system. And the creative and cultural industries do give a lot of freedom to every individual who decides to strike out on his own. I mean, our industry, the advertising and design fraternity, is full of such people who have made a mark on their own, starting with just those few thousand rupees in their pockets and building very successful enterprises which have become job creators and value creators in their own right in hardly any time. In fact, we are trying to get some such people together in the month of November to come at a platform to share their successes, struggles and ideas for the future with youngsters like these. So I believe that's the way forward. You know, as long as we give people the freedom to think, ideate, and live their dreams, we will continue to progress. In fact, we started last year a program called India Future of Change, where we are trying to give an even wider canvas to Indian youngsters and create a platform where they can compete, collaborate, and co-create with their global peers. So I believe that's the strength of the Indian system, that it lets you do what you want to do.
Coming to Shibani Khurana ma'am, you're actually entering this conversation in, to me, what is a very interesting way, and it's actually a perspective that very often gets left out of the table, especially when we talk about issues of youth and empowerment, and that's actually a lot of how culture and tradition has moved over the years. Specifically with the work that you're doing with Chinmaya International Foundation, something that I really find interesting is how strong a role, and that's really, I think, what we'd like to hear from you is how strong a role do traditions play in empowering young people today, and within that, the role of the family particularly.
Knowledge is power. We've heard that very often. the important aspect I think we need to look at is what kind of knowledge are we chasing? And this is addressing your question on tradition. Giving due respect to the fact that there is a certain culture that we follow today, being Indians, and it's typically called aping the West, I would still like to say that there is a group of people, young people in India, who is passionate about tradition. And the role of tradition is such that our tradition is called Sanskriti. In one of the words we say is Sanskriti. If that is not there, then we are just going to be rudderless, following some other culture which we're not even sure of. So while there is objective knowledge which we get in our systems of institutions like SOIL, there is also a subjective knowledge which comes from our tradition. And when I'm speaking of subjective knowledge, it is the knowledge of myself also. So, and I might have a lot of power, but I do not know what my weakness is. I do not know why I lose my temper. All this comes as a part of our tradition, and therefore I think it's very important that we understand. I was one of those youngsters who didn't want to go to the temple. What's the need? If you say God is everywhere, He's here, why can't I pray to Him? And now, having done a little deeper study, see, the point is not to brush off tradition saying, oh, it's outdated. Question it. Question it and then get satisfied and then follow something. We often, as youngsters, try to rebel and think it's a great idea. But first question something, understand. And when you understand that there is power in our tradition, then one will follow it. And as far as tradition is concerned, another aspect I'd like to bring to our mind is, when the West tells us yoga is great, we love it. Now we all want to go for yoga classes. The West is soon going to tell us Ayurveda is great. We all want to follow Ayurveda. So why not take a look? Let us be universal citizens, but let us also look into our tradition. I think it's got far more than we realize. Coming to the second aspect about family. Family is the smallest unit of our existence, other than the individual. See, we're all interdependent. The whole of creation is interdependent. We may think we can live in isolation, we can't. Try it. We can't. We need human beings, we need those feelings, we need someone to talk to. And I'm sure the youngsters also realize there are times when I want to just pick up that phone and reach out to a friend. Might be 1 in the morning. So, realizing the fact that we coexist with this kind of interdependence, the family is the foundation of that. And it brings us this whole beautiful holistic development which we try to learn in schools today. We have schools teaching, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual development. It starts with the family. So that forms the basis. I get to experiment, and that's the unit where people love and respect me. So I can experiment with my emotions, I can experiment with my ideas, and therefore it becomes very critical to the development of an individual.
I'm going to come to last but never the least, to Ravi sir. So I'm going to ask you a question that I think 10 years ago was something personally I deeply struggled with, and it was around the idea that empowerment always tends to not sometimes look at who is not at the table, who's left from the table. So how can we really build more diversity in our leadership, especially looking at, and this is something that a lot of conversation happens around, bridging the urban-rural divide. That was definitely one. And the other is, maybe a slightly more controversial question, is how important really is formal education towards ensuring that you are an empowered young person?
There's a cartoon I saw recently. Somebody sent it to me on Facebook that I want to share. There was this lineup of different animals. There was a lion, there was a elephant, there was a monkey, there was a penguin, and they're all standing, and a man was standing in front of them. They were like standing in a line saying, okay, I've got a test, and I have a fair test to see who's the best. I've got to select one person who's the best. And the test is, who can climb the tree. But we must realize that if we want diversity, we must look at our tests. If we are looking at who can make a leader and our tests are uniform, and that too on an elitist sort of basis, then we are not going to get diversity. And we don't have to go very far to look for an example. Right here, where we're sitting, in a country of the size and profile of a continent like Europe, we're doing our work in a language that only 5% of the people speak. Right? This would never happen in Europe. There would be multi-translations. If a Europe-wide thing would happen, there would be multiple translations. There would be no single language they would look for as an easy answer. That with one language, we can reach out to everyone. They know it's not possible, it's not available, and if you want to have an inclusive, diverse society, you have to use multiple languages. We are unaware of this. It's just out of our consciousness. So how can, when I go to any place, one of the things that's always in the back of my mind, one of my students, can I bring them here? Would they gain anything from here? Can they contribute anything here? And there's this huge barrier, which is language, which will not allow what they already have inside them to come out, and for them to catch maybe 80 or 60% of what's being said. So that's one important thing that we have to start looking at. It's in our hands. We have the the money, resources, technology to do such things. And if we really want diverse leadership coming out, that's one of the first things. To look at what are the many different ways that people can have leadership potential, and not subject them to the same single, simple, simplistic test. I was just yesterday hearing of this story from Tripura, from a colleague of mine at the Youth Collective community. And just some group of youngsters from different tribal backgrounds. There's a lot of inter-tribal problems there, they're fighting amongst each other and their differences. They came together and they wanted to leave that behind, that kind of fighting. And they started a festival a few years ago. It's kind of, there's so many nice stories we don't even hear of. They started a festival and it's grown over the years. It's held in different villages, different places. It's of music, it's of theatre, it's of their arts, their culture, language. And there's a beautiful thing this person shared who's been involved in the initial stages, Father Jerry, with the Don Bosco Institute. And he was sharing that one of the older people was saying, we met here 20 years ago, some time in the past, and we had on the same place, same field was a battlefield. And now we're meeting to connect. Now, this youth leadership, we don't know it exists. It's there all over the place. But if we make our systems of looking different, we'll find them. This country is stealing. I completely agree with Amit. This country, in spite of very stifling systems that we create, is basically free. Basically free. You can go ahead and do anything you want. You don't even need a qualification. We don't ask for qualifications to come to our home and do the whole electric wiring in our house. This wouldn't happen in a developed country. You're just free to go ahead and do really what you want. And people have gone ahead and done it. Because the systems cannot cope with the numbers that are needed and with the energy that's there in the people. Systems can't cope. So, if we want to see it, we have to change our lenses. We'll see it. And we see it, we can then use our resources to encourage it further. Coming to your second question, it's actually linked to the first, and also I'm so glad some of you have shared about the lack of value of the qualifications. I'm all with you, totally. If I have to hire somebody to do some work, I will not take the easy way out of looking at their qualifications. In fact, I'd be a little suspicious. I would not hire a B.Ed as a teacher. Because to me, the most important qualification or competence rather, I'd say, or something needed in a teacher is that they should love the company of children. They have to love it. It has to be part of them. If they don't love the company of children, they can be experts in their field, but they're going to be very bad as teachers. And we don't have to again go far, we have to look at our own lives. And all of us have got 50 teachers coming from school. Every class, 5 teachers, 5 subject teachers, 10 years, or longer. I'm saying, I'm going on the conservative side, 50 teachers. How many of them have touched you? I don't think we can think of more than 1, 2, 3. What's the percentage of that? 6%? That's a very poor percent. You don't even pass in a school exam unless you have 40%. And 96% of the teachers are not inspiring. Right? So, I think we have overrated formal education. And maybe I'm doing sort of too much on the other side and going to another extreme. But that's only in the interest of bringing it somewhere in a balance. I think we have to underrate it a little bit. And really look at, open eyes and look at what competence is needed for what kind of work and where is it available. Otherwise, there's a lot of formal qualifications already in this country. You know, there is this gap. Unemployable. You know. We don't say unemployed, which is an external situation in an economic environment which can't take care. But you're saying unemployable. After all those years of study, you're calling them unemployable? Come on, what? The factory is the problem, not the product. To look at the factory all over again.